Welcome to the Focus 3 podcast. Wherever you are and however you're listening, we are super happy that you've tuned in. I'm Tim Kight, your host, and my co-host Urban Meyer is somewhere else, United States right now. I think he's still coming back from Los Angeles, where he's doing the Fox Sports on the weekend. But today I've got a very special guest with me, someone I've wanted to have on this podcast for well over a year. And Nick Foligno, the captain of the Columbus Blue Jackets, is here with me today. Nick, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, we've wanted to do this for a while.
I didn't know you wanted me for over a year. I would have tried to come sooner, but no, this is a pleasure to be here, obviously, and chat with you.
And we're, we both live in Columbus, but our schedules are crazy. I mean, your schedule, just obviously the National Hockey League schedule is very, very demanding. I'm all over the country, so
I was
it's
going to say you're busier than me.
Well, no, we're both just, and it doesn't always match up.
Yeah.
When it does match up, we're doing work. We're trying to do things to build the culture and the leadership of the Jackets. But what I want to talk, Nick, today about is last year was a very unique year for the team and particularly for you. And you and I talked a lot last year, obviously, about things that were happening, and it was a challenge. And the word that comes to mind, and the theme of today, the big message today, is resilience, which we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. So real quick, just what happened last year. We'll get into some other things, but what are some things you experienced last year that tell our listeners the events, the situations that you were navigating through last year?
Yeah, it's funny. It kind of was went full circle in a lot of ways. Just with it started off with actually some team stuff, and then not to get into our personal business, but we had some issues on our team with some commitments. Right, you have some free agents that are deciding where they want to play, and you're now trying to get ready for a season, and that's a big distraction, especially as polarizing as they were players, and obviously talking about Sergei Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin and
great players,
great people,
and good guys.
Yeah, excellent. And you're and at every point in your career, you have a chance to choose where you want to play, and everyone has that right. And so you have to respect that, but also get ready for a season and be fully committed and ready to go. And so we had to navigate through that at the beginning of the season, and that was tricky because there's emotions. Everyone has them. Everyone has their reasons and opinions. And what I loved is that we did it together. We found a way through that together, and I think it kind of got us going in the right path. And and it was good that we did that in a setting where it was open honesty. And it allowed everyone to kind of have their say, but also after it was done.
So I want to circle back to this in a minute and pull on that thread, because I'm very interested in this podcast is about what people do. How do peak performers go to the next level? How do you deal with stuff? So there's the free agency distractions that you had, and then as if that was enough, there were your kids all went through very challenging physical challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the hardest part. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I play a game, and when this hits you, this is real life. These are my children. These are my blood, and to watch them have to battle. And my daughter, she was diagnosed with endocarditis. She was born with a medical heart defect. So unfortunately
that was 5 years ago.
That was 5 years ago. Yeah. She's actually turning 6 here in October, and part of the the side effects of having a valve, especially a mechanical one, is that there can be an infection that happens, and so she unfortunately got diagnosed with that in November. We dealt with that for about a month and a half till we really could get a surgery. They needed to make sure the infection was cleared, and then you don't want that sitting in them, no matter if it is if the infection has cleared. That's a valve now that has been compromised, and so she needed to have open heart surgery actually on New Year's Day, January 1st. So it was a long process, and that was pretty taxing, and a lot of emotions, a lot of worry. There's so many complications with endocarditis. And as well, you're dealing with your family, you're dealing with your other kids. You're, at a lot of the, early things that we went through with Milana, we didn't have other children. So it was a really, complicated process when you're dealing with two other boys. And
so 3 children.
Yeah, 3 children.
So Milana's the oldest.
Yeah, Milana's the oldest. Landon is in the middle. He just turned 4 yesterday.
Right. Okay.
And Hudson is
Happy
2.
birthday,
Landon.
Landon.
Yes. Happy birthday, the big birthday boy. and Hudson is 2. He's our youngest, and yeah, so from there we learned a lot about how to balance, and my wife is incredible. I give her so much credit too, because obviously I'm off a lot of times, and she's the one holding down the household, which is usually the norm in our profession. And she is a rock for our family, and just the way that she can handle things as well, and focus, and give her all to our kids, which is which is what we'd expect as parents.
So that's interesting. You used a word that we're gonna push hard on, the word focus. Mm-hmm. And we're going to unpack the details of all that. So in an NHL season, you're the captain of the team. You're dealing with some free agency challenges. And we'll get into this. Not only did Milana have open heart surgery, the other 2 children ended up with one with an injury, one with a sickness, all in the middle of the season. You guys are making hopefully a playoff run. We'll talk about that. Yeah. And so you're playing at this incredible level, but you've got all these amazing and great opportunities on the ice, but painful challenges at home. And you're a dad and a husband and a hockey player and a captain of the team. All these responsibilities. In many regards, the way I think of this is that's a metaphor for everyone's life. And we're not all NHL hockey players, but we all have a job. We all have responsibilities. We all have things at work that are going on. We have things at home that are going on. And what we all need, what every single person who's listening to this podcast needs, I need it, I know you need it, is resilience. Yeah. That is the ability to navigate through life's difficult situations. When adversity strikes, don't flinch, be resilient. That's our focus for today. Let's get to work. Nick, talk a little bit about your background. I mean, I don't know how many of our listeners are NHL fans. I know that I've been around the country, and when people hear that I have some kind of affiliation with the Blue Jackets, people talk about players, and your name comes up right away. And people in the hockey world, hockey fans, other teams' fans know about you. But a lot of our listeners may not be NHL fans. Hope they are after today. Talk about your background. You come from a hockey family.
Yeah. So. No, I'm pretty lucky. You know what? It's funny. I never realized as a child growing up, I thought this was just normal. My dad plays, the NHL, and that's my normal.
He played for Buffalo?
He played for, started off in Detroit, played for Buffalo. That's where all 4 of my siblings were born, or all of us were born, in Buffalo, New York. Finished or ended up going to Toronto for a few years, and then finished in Florida with the expansion team, and had a great career, 15-year career. My mother actually comes from hockey lineage. She is a Hall of Fame uncle that was a goaltender in the league, and she actually jokes that that's where I got all my talent, not really from my dad, her side more or less. But we moved around a lot. Obviously, as you heard, we bounced around teams. My dad began coaching after, so we traveled a lot of places. Denver, Hershey, Pennsylvania. Then I moved around for hockey as well. Lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan, playing for the U.S. national team, and then went back home to Sudbury, Ontario. We call it home now. It's where my parents are actually from. They're Canadian. I was told we were, American-born, Canadian-made, and
you have. But interestingly enough, you have dual citizenship, correct?
Dual citizen, yeah. So it's great. I mean, it's just nice to be able to seamlessly travel over the border. Not too many questions. But
little footnote on this. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I found out through, I forget exactly how I found out about this, but it's my understanding. Your sisters played hockey, correct?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and it's my understanding that at some point, and you just give our listeners a brief description of this, because I think this is hilarious.
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. You know where I'm going. Little Nikki. Yeah. So you played on your sister's girls hockey team.
High school hockey team.
High school hockey team. Did they play against boys then?
They played against boys, that's why.
And they decided, let's get little Nikki on our team. And Nikki's an androgynous name that can be male, female.
Exactly. I didn't have to wear the wig, which is good. But
I just think that's hilarious.
Yeah, they loved it.
How'd that happen?
It was.
How old were you?
I was 14, 13. Yeah, and I'm playing travel hockey, obviously at a pretty high level, and they were playing against boys, and it was becoming a little one-sided. And I thought maybe we talked, and the coach agreed that if I could come out there and help at least get the girls the puck and some chances to score.
Whose idea was it to start that?
I think it was the coach actually at first, and then my sisters had to run it by my sisters to make sure they were comfortable with it, and they're great. I mean, they're my biggest supporters, and I'm their biggest supporter. So it was just really neat experience. It was like a family thing where we'd all play together, and it was pretty hysterical. I mean, not very often you get to play with your sisters in a sport, so it was pretty cool, and I think it's a reason why we're so close to this day. And it was fun. It was fun passing them the puck, and sometimes they'd set me up, which was pretty surprising. But it was.
Did you score much?
I did a couple times. When we were down by a few, I'd have to turn it up. But they scored a lot of goals, those girls, and it was great.
I just think that is so funny to think back. Little Nikki playing on the girls hockey team.
Well, they're the only two people that could call me Nikki to this day. Yeah. So my sisters, and probably the girls on the hockey team.
Well, and apparently me today on this podcast, so add me to that list. So you grew up in a hockey family. Your brother plays now.
Yeah, that's
he's played his whole life. He's in Minnesota?
He's in Minnesota, and it's just been so awesome to watch. I think you're a bigger fan of your sibling's career than you are of your own in a lot of ways. Just, watching him, and I'm so proud of him for everything he's accomplished too. I think as an older brother, you feel responsible for kind of clearing the path for your younger sibling, and he's a guy that I've really respected the way he's gone about his career, and he's doing great things in Minnesota. He's obviously a guy that his teammates love. He's made a big impact on that team, and that's all you ask for, really. And it'll be cool to see where he goes this year.
So you got drafted?
Drafted in the first round in 2006.
First round?
Yeah. It was 28th pick overall, so it was pretty cool to experience that. And
what was that team? Who drafted you?
Ottawa Senators, in Vancouver. And it was just to hear your name and walk up on stage do that whole thing. It was, you dream of that. That's kind of the first step. And Gary Bettman shakes your hand and says, "Welcome to the NHL." And it's a really surreal moment. And then
when did you know that you had NHL level skill? When did you know that was an arc that was possible for you?
I think once I made the U.S. program. I mean, that's the 25 best kids in your age group in the country get to go there. And so I think I realized, okay, and not really, to be honest with you, I really applied myself. I really didn't know what to do. I had a dad who told me, but you never listen to your father as much as you should, right? And so I think that was kind of when I said, wow, I could really, do something with this. But the best part of that whole experience was I was probably the worst player on that team at first. I was in over my head. I remember going to the tryout and laughing with my mom, like, "Oh my God, Mom, that was insane. I'll never make that team."
Was that a talent issue? Was it a?
I just think it was not very. I don't think it was talent. I think it was just I never knew how hard I had to work.
There you go. That's what I was after. Was it talent or effort issue?
No, effort. Okay. And you've had that saying. It's hard work will beat talent when talent doesn't want to work hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I was experiencing. And
we're gonna get to this message, obviously, of resilience. An interesting thing about resilience is to be resilient in response to life's adversity requires zero talent. It's all toughness. Yeah. But we'll get to that in a minute. I just want to get the arc here. I want to get the journey. So you started in Ottawa.
Yep.
And then you've gone through a couple teams, like everybody in professional sports. The vast majority. It's rare that you're on the same team that drafted you the entire career. Sure. There's a lot of movement in any sport, NHL included. Talk about how you came to Columbus, and then how you became captain of the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of going through a lengthy negotiation with Ottawa at the time. And as you go through it now, you realize there's a good chance I was going to get traded, just with the way they were kind of hemming and hawing. And it ended up being the case where on July 1st, I think it was, which is a free agency day, I got traded from Mark Mathot to Columbus. And I'll never forget my wife. She cried because she said, "Where is Columbus?" And I couldn't really explain it to her either. But what was so cool, and this is something that'll stick in my brain forever, is that when we came to Columbus on our first visit, I believe it was end of July, we were so comfortable. We came in and we just felt like there was just something about coming here that we fell in love with the place. It was almost too, it was surreal in a lot of ways, just how quickly we fell in love with Columbus. It was a 3-day trip. We were looking for a house, trying to figure out where to live, and just the people and just how the comfort level. And I think a lot of it too was I was at a point in my career where I was looking for a challenge. I was looking to become a bigger piece of the puzzle than I was in Ottawa. And I saw an opportunity, whereas a lot of people, not to be rude, at the time, Columbus was coming off their worst season in franchise history, would have saw, oh boy, I'm going here to die, or this is a tough team. I was like, oh man, I can't wait. This will be my mark. This will be my chance. I don't know why it just came to me. I wanted to be a difference maker for this team. I wanted to come in here, and I don't know if that's egotistical or just, I think you have to have some sort of thought process like that. And what was neat is it lined up with a lot of guys that were coming in. You had Brandon Dubinsky, who was coming from from New York Rangers, who was thinking the same way. Sergei Bobrovsky was coming to become a starter. So you had all these guys that were lining up with, let's turn this team around. Let's become players, and naturally our team will follow suit, if we do that. And it was really cool to be a part of. It was a really neat experience.
That's fascinating, because I'm a deep believer that leadership is a mindset first. Leadership isn't a title or a position. It's a mindset. And I have this statement. I made it yesterday. I did a workshop yesterday for a whole group of educators. And your company or your team or your school can put you in a position of authority, but only you can put yourself in a position of leadership, which is a really interesting thought. You agree with that?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that, actually.
And you can be called vice president. You can be called general manager. You can be called principal. You can be called captain of your team, of your school, of your organization. Fantastic. And with that position and title comes a certain level of authority. And I always warn people, I'm not saying authority is bad. But here's the problem for a lot of people. If you exercise authority, the appropriate authority for the role that you're in, but people don't trust you, you're in trouble. All you're going to create is resistance. You're going to resentment. People are going to push back. Therefore, and I love this. I made a note while you were talking. I wanted to be a difference maker. That's the mindset of a leader. And I don't know how specific was that. Just a general thought that you had, or had you had an idea did you have a plan for how to make a difference, or was it just, hey, I can, and then I'll figure it out as we go?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I didn't know how to do it, but I just knew that if my heart was in it, then I think I thought I would figure it out. I thought I would come here, get the lay of the land, and then work my way to doing that. And it's kind of funny how it's actually followed suit that way. I've kind of gone through some bumps along the road, but we're in a place now where our team is an engine, and we're pumping on all cylinders in a lot of ways. So it's fun to see.
You just said something else that you said, I felt if my heart was in it, I'd figure out how to do it along the way. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what Nick just said. And for those of you listening to this podcast and you are a quote unquote leader someplace, is your heart in it? Because you can have the position and your heart isn't in it. You can have the title and your heart isn't in it. And there's another thing that I believe about leadership. Leadership is a heart-to-heart activity. What comes from the heart touches the heart. And I've gotten to know you pretty well over the last 2 years as we worked together, and your heart is in this thing. And I didn't know you then. It would have been real interesting to have known you during that entire time and watch you grow as a leader and an influencer and a difference maker for the team. But there's just a powerful message in there for all of us. And it's real interesting. In the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament, King Solomon has this fantastic statement he makes. I think it's Proverbs chapter 4. He says, guard your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life. Guard your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life. And I think that's a great leadership quote, because a leader has to make sure his or her heart is right, to your point. And if you're going to lead people, it better come from the heart. Because if you're leading from pure authority, if you're leading from just your position, you're leading from ego, it's not going to work. But if you're leading from here, you'll find a way. Yeah. And you found a way, which is pretty cool. So how'd that evolve? So you want to be a difference maker, and how'd you become captain? When did that happen? And how'd you feel?
You know what? It was really cool because it just felt effortless. And I'm serious when I say that. I just think it was a year that our team was expected to do something, and we had a crazy amount of injuries, and I just felt like I just stayed the course. I didn't get flustered by a lot of things, and was having actually not that it really matters, but a career year. So I think just that was helping, escalate things. And, I was being looked to as a guy that could kind of pull us through that. And it just kind of naturally flowed. I remember just more guys were coming to me with things. And that's where I think, to me, I started to feel like, okay, I can start influencing guys and making a difference on this team in that regard. Before it was always just on the ice and, you do your part and be a good person, good teammate. But I started to realize that my opinion, could help and mattered.
How are captains chosen in the NHL? How did the Jackets choose captain? What's that process like?
Yeah, so a lot of times I think it's chosen by a coach or a general manager. In this situation, I do believe it was chosen by our peers, by my peers, which I'm more proud of than anything. In talking with GM and the coach at the time, it was the guys that chose, and that meant more to me.
Who was the coach when you became
Todd Richards and Jarmo Kekalainen, obviously the GM, but. And talking to Jarmo when he asked me if I'd like to be captain, one of the things I said was this chosen by the guys, and he said yes.
Wow.
And so that was powerful to me because had it been those, and I'm sure obviously the GM has the last say, but to have the respect of the room in that regard, that they want me to lead, that they want to follow me. That meant more to me than anything.
Absolutely.
And I think I took that. As proud as anyone would have, and I wanted to make sure that these guys knew how much I cared about them. I think that's the most important thing. And but the problem was, which is funny, I think I cared too much after my first year. I think that was where and you know what, failure. I'm not afraid to say you fail at things, and it's great because I think you learn from them. I've always thought that
failure's feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a lesson.
Yeah, and it was that next year of being a captain. Things couldn't go worse. You go 0-9 to start the season. Our coach gets fired. Polarizing coach comes in, and John Tortorella. And then you're trying to learn a personality like that while also leading a team.
So hold on for a second. Explain that a bit. A polarizing coach and Torts. Talk about John Tortorella just for a moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have so much respect for him, but at first you hear all these stories about how how hard he is, how demanding, and the hoopla that kind of follows him, and then he'd be the first one to admit it. There's just the media attention because he's a strong personality. He's a guy that cares, and he'll tell you how he feels. There's no gray area, and that can be very off-putting for a lot of people if you don't understand it and don't know how to deal with it. And at first, our team is pretty sensitive. We just lost our coach. We're fragile, and he comes in and just shakes everything up, shakes the tree, sees where things fall. And, and I got shooken in that year because, he's challenging me. And I'm like, well, I'm the captain, and how can you challenge me? And you get a burr up because of it. And you realize after we had a really great conversation, and he had to know if I could do it. He had to know if I was the guy because he's trying to get this team back on the rails. And if I'm not stable, if I'm not ready, if I'm not able in his world to do it, then why would he want a guy like me leading? And I have so much respect for that because that's exactly what he was trying to do and trying to see, and it made me who I am.
Again, these things come up like this. I hear this situation, and resilience comes to mind again. Yeah. So we talked a moment ago about talent, and we talked about effort and toughness. Responding to that challenge of John coming in and coaching, they call him Torts. That's what the description.
Yeah, don't call him John.
Yeah, like John, who's that? That's Torts. That's the coach. So he comes in and challenges everyone. He sets a new standard, and he's very direct, and he's very demanding, and it's a professional sport. You guys are the National Hockey League. I mean, this is, okay, great. At the same time, though, you say that was difficult for people. Responding to the challenges that Torts gave all of you, was that a talent-related thing, or was that something different?
No, that was a commitment and a work, related thing. And I think that's why our team was able to take steps very quickly because we bought in. And we realized what he was trying. We trusted him. At the end of the day, we trusted him. And I think you need that. And I think he demanded that because of the way he came in. He didn't come in and just say everything's wrong here, but I think he slowly picked away at things that he saw were a problem. And, and that's what you appreciate. And how would I know? This is my first year doing it. How do I know and see all these things that he has experience of seeing and coaching? And, at first, I like I said, I put my guard up because he was challenging kind of everything that we were built on. And you realize quickly that there was a stronger foundation that could be built.
I always observe the challenge people have when they're challenged, when someone is challenged by new standards or someone comes in and makes some shifts and questions what's going on, ego comes in. And it is a hard thing to have high confidence with low ego. That is a hard thing to do. And so Torts comes along and he brings a new standard and a new approach, and he challenged all you guys. And again, that's not a talent issue. That is a mental toughness issue. Last year when I first addressed the team, do you remember when I asked the team how many teams in the NHL have talent?
Yep.
And the answer, of course, is
every one of them.
All of them. And the question becomes, who then wins the Stanley Cup? It's not a talent issue. Once you make the league, you have talent, and the team you're on has talent. And I get it. There are teams with varying degrees of talent. The goalie's talent makes a difference, and everybody's talent matters. Please don't. No one listening to this, don't make the mistake of saying that I or Nick are saying talent doesn't matter. It does. But once talent is present, the differentiating factor is something other than talent, and that's the challenge that we all have. So you're in this season. So you're captain of the Blue Jackets. I mean, so you went through that season where Torts first came, and then you've really grown into this position of leadership.
Yeah, no, I think that's what was exciting to me is that I had a lot to learn, and you talk about ego. It didn't bother me so much that he was challenging me. I think it was just that I realized then that how much longer I had to go, how much more that I needed to learn, and I put my ego aside because I just wanted to help this team. I wanted to help these guys, and I felt like I wasn't doing my job.
That, by the way, is how I've observed you the last 2 years. High confidence, low ego. I would say that's descriptive of you.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to have that in a lot of ways because I think ego just gets in the way of what you're really trying to do. It's never about me. It's never about me. It's always about the team. And I've tried to preach that to everybody. So when you're making a decision in our team, is it for your betterment or is it for the team's betterment? Because I'm all for it if it is.
One of the core beliefs that when I work with you and the other three leaders, other player leaders, we talked about own your role.
Own your role, yeah. That is, whatever role it is, I mean, that is so important. And that's, I talked about everything going full circle early on. That's what we were dealing with at the end of the season. Now we made all these changes last year, and after everything that I went through with my family, I think it gave me clarity in coming in and making guys realize, a lot of the issues that we were facing was selfishness, and and how do we want to be remembered as a team here? We just signed or brought in a bunch of guys to really go for it, and guys were used to a certain role, and now you're on a new team. Now you got new players coming in. Your role is going to change for the betterment of the team to get us where we want to go. And guys were resistant to that for a while, and that was kind of our last hurdle as a group. And once we settled that, once we had some open dialogue about who's going to play where and how you're going to do it and owning your role, our team took off. I mean, we won 8 of our last 9. We sweep Tampa in the first round.
Which had never happened before.
Never happened
before. Tampa had
won
what's the trophy?
President's Trophy.
Which is the team that...
Top team.
It's awarded the team that has the most wins in the regular season.
Exactly, yeah.
And then you guys were the second wild card team, so you were the last team they made it into the playoffs.
8th spot.
And so you had to play the number 1 seed, and you 4-0.
Yeah. And you talk about resilience there. Like our team was already counted out. Everything was what are you going to do to negate this, and what are you going to do to negate? No one asked us what about your team, or how is your team going to play? It was always, what are you going to do to combat what Tampa's going to do? And it was a nice way for our team just to kind of focus on ourselves.
Well, give a little context here. You'd already played Tampa.
Oh yeah, it was ugly.
How many times did you play them in the regular season?
3.
And
the cumulative score was embarrassing. I don't even know what it was, but it was a lot to a little. Over the 3 games, and
so you can't blame
no, absolutely not
the evaluators of the league saying, okay, Columbus has played Tampa 3 times in the regular season, and Columbus wasn't that competitive in those games, but something happened, and it's even more dramatic because in the first period in Tampa of playoff game number 1 against you guys and Tampa. Tampa was up 3-0.
Yeah.
Was that right? 3-0?
Yeah, 3-0.
At the end of period 1. And everyone's sitting back going, okay, that's what we expected. Columbus is done.
Absolutely.
what happened in the locker room in between period 1 and period 2?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to talk about, but certain guys get up and talk, and it wasn't just myself. There was a few guys that spoke, but I think what our message was that we really hadn't shown who we were. We felt we were a different team coming into that playoff series, and we reverted back to old ways just because of habit or whatever. And
were guys nervous?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you see their power and what they came out like gangbusters at us. And so you kind of revert back to the old ways and your old thought process come back. And I loved our ability to transition in such a quick time and change our thoughts, in a short amount of time. And I think I'm a big believer thoughts become things, where you start thinking a certain way and all of a sudden you can go out and do that. And it has to be, a real big belief in the room. And we had one. We felt like everything we'd done to that point, the guys owning their roles, the way we had played, we really were a different team and we hadn't shown it. We reverted back to our old ways. So when we got out for that second period, we just wanted to come out and show who we were, and show that we were a team to be reckoned with. And it worked out in kind of a dramatic scene where Bob makes an incredible save and we go down and score not much longer after that. And then all of a sudden, now
you scored.
Yeah, I scored, which was nice.
It was a breakaway, right?
Yeah, which was nice to kind of get our team going. I'm not going to lie. I felt like it was important whoever it was.
You could feel it, man.
Yeah.
I remember watching that going... Yeah.
And then maybe in that sense too, for me to be able to score, it showed guys that, all right, we're gonna do this. Nick's got a belief, then we're all gonna have a belief, and then you could feel it from the group. And then all of a sudden, David Savard goes down and scores an unbelievable goal, and now everyone's jumping on each other. And what was so neat through the whole series was the bench. A lot of times in the NHL, or I don't know what other sports because I don't have those experiences, but your bench dictates a lot of your energy on your team and how your bench responds to things. And and I think for us, our energy of our team was created from our bench. Our bench was alive. We were talkative. We were energetic. We were supportive. Anyone scored, it was like it was a bigger party in our bench than it was in the stands. So when you have that kind of buy-in from everyone, you can tell everyone's engaged in the game because they're all watching. Now they're all reacting. And man, that drove us throughout the whole series, and it was just so fun to be a part of. I mean, you didn't know if you'd rather be in the huddle on the ice when we scored or on the bench because of the party that was going on, and that shows the belief and the buy-in from everybody, and it was really fun to be a part of.
I want to make an observation, and again, I'm very aware of and passionate about what all of you listening to this are learning and hearing. And Nick just used an incredibly important word. He's used several here, and here's another one, and the word's energy. Yeah. If you're going to be successful at anything in life, you have to be a creator of positive, productive energy. You have to be. Success requires energy, and high levels of success require high levels of sustained positive energy. One of the things that you guys wrote into your competitive culture statement is that energy is a choice, not a feeling. And then generate and elevate. So that's a statement in the Blue Jackets culture, competitive culture statement. Energy is a choice, not a feeling. Generate and elevate. You think about what is the competitive advantage of being able to generate and elevate the energy necessary for the situation that you're in. Let me say that again. This is important, everybody. What is the competitive advantage? What's the value to you as a mom, as a dad, as a husband, as a wife, as a leader, as a worker, as anybody? What is the value of being able to generate and elevate the energy necessary for the situation you're in? Arguably one of life's most important skills. Agreed?
Absolutely.
Okay, so cool things, but let's run the clock back a little bit. So that was the first playoff series, first round. You guys swept Tampa Bay Lightning. Awesome. Let's crank back because getting there was tough. And let's go back to what we did at the outset and describing what went on during the season. You had the two players in particular who were probably going to go free agency and question about what's going to happen with them. And you guys dealt with that pretty effectively and were able to, at some point, then tune out the noise, focus on what you need to focus on, get those guys dialed in. It's interesting. They were totally bought into that.
Absolutely.
Bob plays awesome in the playoffs. It was great.
That shows the kind of player they are too, right? They committed to our team, and they did a great job for us.
But mid-season, your daughter as you said earlier, the heart valve became infected. I think it was right around Thanksgiving. I think you texted me or said, hey, she's not doing well. And all of a sudden, and then you and your wife recognized where the doctors said, oh, it's infected. We're going to have to do open heart surgery. And she's 5 years old.
Yeah, it's
in the middle of the season.
Yeah, that was you know what, it tests you. I think it you know, it's funny. I mean, not to go back, but so my mom passed away from breast cancer 10 years ago this summer. That's the reason why I went to actually play junior hockey. I was going to become a college hockey player, and I went home to play for my dad in Sudbury, Ontario, because my mom was dealing with her cancer battle. And
is that the Wolves?
Yeah, the Wolves. You got it. Very good. And it's funny because my reaction to her death, well, first of all, I was 21 years old, 22 years old, and you know, I was a terrible reaction. I remember I was disappointed in myself. And I don't think I'm ashamed of it. I think it was just my first time dealing with any loss and really not understanding why. And there's so many things that go on, and not to get into the whole grieving process, but I never liked my approach. I didn't think I had the skills I didn't think I built the skills, but who really has them at 22 years old, dealing with something like that. So I remember when my daughter was first diagnosed, I hadn't met you yet, obviously, with her heart defect. I just remembered I wanted to have a different thought process than what I had with my mom. I felt like I let myself down because of just the way I handled the terrible news, and wasn't really strong as I needed to be, and for myself and for my family. And so I said, I never want that to be the case again. So I remember with my daughter, I felt at peace with myself because I really just, first of all, became very faithful, and realizing that some of these things are just out of your control. You don't have a say in a lot of this stuff, and I
E
think,
plus R equals O.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to get to, is that event plus response equals outcome, and my response was not as elite as it needed to be, and I had no idea what I was doing at the time with my daughter, because I hadn't met you. I didn't really have it put into words, so that was really cool when I met you after dealing with everything with my daughter, and she ended up being okay, and we get through it. And, I never wanted it to be, coming into the rink and putting that burden on my teammates, because really it's not their burden. They already are sad for us. I knew that. But why come in here and mope around and poor me, woe is me? It's not going to change anything for my daughter. So I had to come in here with an attitude to show people, you know what? No, everything's going to be fine, because I'm going to, and not fake. I felt it. I really did. You can't be fake about it. If you are feeling those things, you need to feel what you feel. But for me, you were scared when you needed to be scared, but other than that, it was business as usual, and knowing that your daughter is going to do what she needs to do, and you're going to have the people in place to do what they need to do.
So, unbelievable insight right there, everybody. Unbelievable. Please listen to this. There are probably people listening right now going through adversity.
For sure.
But listen to this podcast. And if you're not going through adversity now and you're listening to this, at some point you will, because no one wants it, but everybody gets it.
Yeah.
You just gave tremendous coaching on how to be resilient. Here's my observation of what resilient people do. They look at the difficulty, they look at the obstacle, they look at adversity, they look at square in the face and say, that's painful, that's scary, that hurts, and it's hard. They don't ignore it. Mm-hmm. They grab the feeling and say, that is painful. That sucks, if you will. That's really bad. Then they shift their focus on what they need to do. Really interesting. They don't ignore it. They don't sugarcoat it. They look at it square in the face. I said, they don't flinch, and they don't lie about it. That is hard, and it's painful. And then they say, okay, and they shift their focus onto what needs to be done. They don't fixate on the pain. They don't fixate on the feelings. They understand the feeling. They feel the feeling, and then they focus on what they need to do. Very powerful combination. And it's hard. It's not easy to do. Was that your experience, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I don't know why I did it, but I just knew that I maybe past experiences, showed me that I wanted to have a different mentality and a different drive through this one. And, you don't expect adversity, like you said. You just have to deal with it. You have to, assess it and then figure out how to deal with it. And I was lucky to have a wife that was in the same mindset. And
you used the word focus about her earlier.
Absolutely.
I've not met.
Yeah,
your wife
I know, it's
yet.
crazy.
I was just like,
that's
come on.
Actually crazy.
Listen, when are we
well,
gonna
last year, I don't know when you would. Oh man,
we're gonna go out for pizza and a beer or something here.
We definitely do. Yeah. But she is that. She lives that, and she doesn't even realize it. That's the thing that's neat about her. She's she's being what a mom needs to be. She's being what a strong woman needs to be. And you know, it's her upbringing as well. She's a real independent girl. And
does she do what I described? Does she acknowledge the problem and then focus on what needs to happen? Is that what she does?
Absolutely, yeah. Which is incredible because she would, you know, think that she's not, but when you watch her, she is an incredible way about you know, finding out the problem and then, okay, how are we going to fix it? Or what are we going to do? Yeah, and it drives me, you know, and I'm lucky to have someone like that you know, can look at things that way. And yeah, we balance each other in a lot of aspects because sometimes she'll look for problems that aren't there, but that's why she's so good for our kids and what we've dealt with, you know, and the reason why I believe our kids are thriving now, and you know, but that's what was so cool is that, you know, I go through that when I didn't know you, then you kind of put it into words, we verbalize it, and then everything that happened this year, it was like I had a game plan, you know, and it's
a system.
Yeah, and I think it allowed me to navigate because it was insane, you know, going from a heart condition to my son breaks.
Hold on. I want to set this up because you all listen to this and you're probably thinking, what was it like to be an athlete and you know, in the middle of a season, and your daughter has open heart surgery, and the resilience and courage that requires, and she goes to Boston. She was diagnosed at Children's Hospital in Columbus. Yep. And this is with just last year, and they had the original diagnosis, correct, when she was born? Yeah. And then you went to Boston for the open heart surgery, you said on January 1. Yep. Right?
Incredible team there as well.
Yeah, so kudos to those two hospitals, and just people. Unbelievable. Yeah. You come back, and Milana, she recovers pretty quickly, and from what you've described, she's a toughie. She's a
incredible girl. I have so much admiration for that kid, just with everything she's gone through.
So you guys navigate it. You're resilient. You acknowledge the problem. You focus. You do what needs to be done. You're away from the team. You come back. Oh, I'm glad that's over. So glad. And we say adversity tests you. Adversity is a test, not of your talent. It's a test of your toughness. Folks, I'm going to say it again. Adversity is not a test of your talent. It's a test of your toughness. Dave, this has got to be, we're going to call that's the title of this podcast. Adversity is a test of toughness, not talent. All right, so Milana is healing up, doing great. She's back. Yeah. Everything's fine. The season's going on. Then what happened?
Well, we think our boys hadn't seen us. That's the first time we've had to leave our boys that long. We were gone 10 days roughly. So we felt my middle son could really sense. You know, they sense change, kids. Sure. I mean, he's 3 years old at the time, and he could feel that we weren't around. Knew there was something going on with Milana. Why is she not around? So he was having a hard time acting out and just kind of, you know, felt very anxious. You could see it.
This is Landon?
Landon, yeah. And, you know, so we thought, okay, once Milana starts getting her, you know, back on her feet, going back to school, actually it was the first day she went back to school for a little bit. We'll take him, and, you know, he wasn't quite, he had, you know, not in school yet. We'll take him to the trampoline park, do something just mom, dad, and him, you know, he'll think it's great. And, so what a terrible idea after talking to so many people, but we thought it was a great idea at the time. And we go there, not even 5 minutes in, he jumps. I might have been too close to him, double bounced or whatever. Here he is trying to do something nice as a parent, and he ends up breaking his leg. Yeah. And people are probably wanting to call child services on us at this point. But it was, you know, I couldn't, and honestly, at the time, it was just something that was going to be so great, and it turned into something so horrible. And I was devastated because it was something that was self-inflicted. You know, it wasn't like I have no control over this. In some way, you had control, you know, and so that was a little bit harder for me to wrap my head around.
Could have just gone to a movie.
Exactly. Could have went to, you know, a movie or just lunch. And instead we tried to do something like that, and it ends up, you know, he's now in a cast up to his hip.
What did he say? He said something.
Yeah, he goes, "Why did you do this to me?" I don't know why I'm laughing.
How did you feel when he said that?
It broke me. Honestly, I was so devastated for a few days, just because, yeah, you felt like, what the heck did we just do? You know, what did we do here? This is supposed to be something great, and now it turned into horrible. What are we, you know, condemned or what? But it was another really challenging time. But the thing for me with that is, you know, it's a break. It's not something that's life-threatening. And for him, it's funny how your kids all react differently. I mean, by the end of it, he's a boy. He's dragging his leg around like a seal, He's got and it was just whatever. It was just another challenge for him and for us to get through. And it wasn't life or death. So you assess it that way. You feel terrible for him. I mean, he's a 3-year-old who doesn't want to be running around, and he actually had to kind of relearn how to walk. It was that bad of a break, and that was challenging in itself. And the fear, his anxiety of stepping on it. Last time once his cast came off, the last thing he remembers was that it was broken. So he thinks that's the case, and you got to kind of retrain his brain and himself. And
the leg's atrophied, so it feels a bit weak.
And it's just the patience you learn from that as a parent, because you're like, just walk, and he can't, So
you're playing hockey. Your guys in the middle of the season. So you've got your daughter had open heart surgery. Your middle son broke his leg.
Yeah.
There's one child left.
We should have just bubble wrapped him.
Adversity isn't over. I mean, the season of challenges.
Yeah, we the old saying, bad things happen in threes or whatever. But yeah, this one was wild, because it was a tough year. People maybe remember, at least in Columbus, for respiratory illnesses in Columbus. A lot of croup and things like that. And
team context, the team is going on a West Coast trip, a West Coast tour. You're going to play in the teams in the West.
Yeah.
And what happens to Hudson?
He comes down with pneumonia. He had been dealing with a pneumonia earlier that wasn't as serious, but he had to be hospitalized even earlier, a couple weeks before then. And then he gets it again, and it was this RSV that gave him a double infection that turned into pneumonia. And that was really scary. It's funny with my daughter. I don't know if it's just the experiences now where you feel, which is crazy to say about open heart surgery, but just the advances that they can have. It's pretty cut and dry with a lot of the things. This is what's the problem. This is how we're going to fix it. And the surgeon's incredible, and you just kind of go. And it's her recovery, and I think too her strength. It really gives you a lot of confidence to see her that way. But with our youngest, who can't really verbalize, who's 2 years old, to see them laying on a hospital bed, fighting for air, essentially, on a breathing tube.
He was in the ICU, wasn't he?
Yeah, for 17, 19 days. He was on a breathing tube for 11. No one should have to see their kid like that, and unfortunately, a lot of people do. And that was just hard, because it was so touch and go, just so. 1 minute he was doing well, the next minute not, and his lung collapsed on him. It got really bad before it got better, and that was really scary. All the while, your team's going through a terrible time too, trying to figure itself out. There was a lot of things that went on, but ultimately it was just, all right, let's grin and bear it. Let's find a way through this, and we have such a love for each other, my wife and I, that we just continue to just help each other through it. I know she was exhausted with everything we'd already dealt with, but she just found a way to toughen up and find our strength, and we kind of leaned on each other. And I think anyone needs to realize this too. You can lean on people. It's amazing. You have a lot of people that support you in a lot of ways. Our family was incredible. Our friends were incredible.
Yeah, when I found out that your son was in the ICU and you were at the hospital, and I texted you, can I bring you breakfast sandwich? Can I bring you coffee? Exactly. And you basically texted back, I've got family all over the place. Thanks, TK, but love you, but don't need you. That was cool.
And that's where you realize it's okay. A lot of people sometimes when they're going through adversity, they think, I got to do this on my own. I don't want to burden anyone else. But I already said to you that people feel your burden. As long as you're not pushing it on them, they know what you're going through. And it was so humbling, the amount of support that we got, and I think it helped us. I know it helped get us through a lot of that, and slowly Hudson turned the corner and got better, and and we have so many people in that hospital to thank because of that, and it was almost a full circle in a lot of ways, just with how we kind of went through everything. It was, out of our control to kind of in our control to out of our control, with each kid. And, I think my wife and I just realized that a lot of times you just got to find a way and give yourself a plan and then attack it and do it with energy and do it with love, because these are your kids. You're never going to let anything happen to them that anything bad happened to him. And we just, we found a way, and we leaned on a lot of people, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm actually proud of it. It shows the support network that we have. And then it makes you want to do that for other people
There
as
you
well.
go. There you go.
And I think that's the biggest thing. You give back because you're supposed to and you need to, and you realize how important it is when you need it. And we're so lucky to have these facilities that we have in our city, these doctors that we have. And I think that's why we just feel so humbled and appreciative of everyone.
So an observation that I've had over the years, a statement that I've made many times, and that is that average people are crushed by adversity. Good people survive it. Elite get better because of it. It's a test, not of your talent, but of your toughness. Average people are crushed by difficulties, adversity. Good people survive it, but elite people get better because of it. Would you say, looking back on last year, you're a better person, a better captain, a better husband, a better dad? Again, you don't want any of this stuff. I'm not saying that but are you better this year than you were last year because you had to navigate that?
Without a doubt, yeah. And I'm proud to say that, though. I mean, nobody wants to go through adversity. Nobody wants these things to happen to my children, especially. I'd take it all. I'd lay in that bed any moment for those kids. But they're also, in a weird way, they're going to be stronger, and sometimes those lessons you can never teach your kids. They have to experience things. And as a parent, that's probably the hardest thing. You don't ever want to see your kids hurt, but sometimes they got to skin their knee. Sometimes they got to, be rejected and, not make a team. It's good for them.
Can you fast forward 10 years when your kids are 15, 13, 12, and they're 20 in their 20s? High school and college, and you remember the 2018 or whatever the year last year, 18-19 season, and they talk about the whole thing. I mean, that'll be a family conversation.
For sure. Oh man, we'll hopefully have a lot of laughs over that.
You guys up on the lake in Sudbury, and they'll have their boyfriends, girlfriends.
No, not yet. Especially no boyfriend. Girlfriends maybe, no boyfriend for my daughter. But it's something that I'm proud of them because this is what's really cool too, is I saw the strength in them. I talked about this before. I said
they're resilient.
Exactly. You're looking to give them strength and resiliency, and as a parent, you're like, but they end up giving it to you, which is the craziest thing. Because how does a 5-year-old know how to teach you that, or a 2-year-old, or a 3-year-old? Here's a kid that breaks his leg. No, he's still going to try and figure out how to play. He's still going to try and drag his leg around because I'm not just going to sit here and feel sorry for myself. You got a 2-year-old that has to learn how to fight for himself because he can't verbalize. So he figures out other ways to tell you how he's feeling. And my daughter, showing us the strength to have 2 open heart surgeries before the age of 6. And so for us, I mean, the strength that we get from our kids is invaluable. And like I said, it's not something you wish to have, but when you do have it, take the message out of it, take the lesson from it, because it's going to make you a better parent, a better person. And that's what I've tried to do. It's not, this is my story and my life is so much harder than yours. I said there are so many people out there in the world that have it way worse than we do. And we are so blessed in a lot of ways, but there is a duty and a reason why we're going through this, that we need to learn from it, and so we can help other people. And my kids, I think, will be better kids because of it. Maybe not some days, my wife would say, but they're going to be better children for it. And if we can show them why and teach them why and live that way, then we've done our job as parents too, and we'll be better people for it.
We'll wrap this up, but this is, I think, a great comment there about why I chose this topic and why. Well, I wanted to get you on the podcast for a lot of other reasons, but then when you went through what you did, I for sure wanted to get you here to have this conversation because I know the value to everyone listening because everybody goes through adversity, and there's lessons for all of us to learn from what you guys went through and what you guys did, and I think that summarizes it really well. Again, I just want everyone to understand something, just to reiterate, we've said it throughout this entire conversation, but you were playing in the National Hockey League in a playoff run into the playoffs during this whole ordeal. So it'd be difficult enough to deal with the situation that your kids had, let alone be doing a job outside the home with the competitive environment and all the things that you're dealing with. So that's life right there. What you just described, Nick, is a metaphor for everyone. It just is. It's a symbol of all of us. We have our jobs, we have our families, we have stuff that's going on, and we've got to elevate, step up, respond to those things that happen. And some of the things that happen in life are good. Some of the things that happen in life are just average, and some things that happen in life are adversities, difficulty. What do you conclusion? How do you wrap this up in your mind as we're conversing about this, with looking back at that year? What are your big takeaways as you're entering into where the season's about to start? You guys are about to go into camp. I'm sure you're thrilled about that. But what do you look back on last year? How do you summarize it in your mind?
You know what? It was. It's funny you asked me this because I actually thought about this. I drive 10 hours to come back here, so it's a nice time to reflect on everything. And from Sudbury to Columbus, and you do a lot of sitting in the car. And I think it was a lesson for me and my leadership. And here's why. I think a lot of times when you become a captain of a team or a leader, you can do it for so long by yourself, and then you start to build a relationship with other guys that are also leaders. And what was really neat for me is that I got to see some guys grow into a role that otherwise maybe they wouldn't have been able to, because I was there smothering them in a sense.
So Boone, Cam, and Seth had to step up.
And that's on the work front, and that's what was really neat is they did. They had to step up in moments and grow as leaders themselves. And I'm not there to tell them how, and not that I need to, but I think they just felt the confidence that no, we can do this too. This is our team as well, and I've always wanted to lead like that. We're doing this together. I'm never going to take credit for anything. We're always going to do this as a group, and I just loved talking to those guys from afar. The love and respect that I have for my teammates. I mean, the amount of support that I got from those guys alone, my teammates, not just those three guys, my whole group, makes me want to come back and fight even harder for that team, because of the way they supported me through such a difficult time. We're a family. I mean, any of those guys go through something, we're all on, we're there to support them and anything we need to do. And, I wanted to make sure they felt that, and they definitely made my family feel that way when we were going through our difficult times. So that's what I took away from it, is that I think our team will now be better because of those players took it upon themselves and got to grow in that role. And now I get to really lean on those guys, and we can do this by committee because of that. They're more confident in themselves. They're more confident in what our team is about. And I think that's going to make the Columbus Blue Jackets a better organization, a better team, and I'm excited about that. So, it's weird that a family thing has to tie into a work thing, but I really do feel.
But that's how life works.
Yeah, exactly.
That's real life.
And those are my two families. And
wow.
Yeah, and so I'm really excited to see the way we go this year, because I think we're going to hit the ground running, because we've dealt with so much adversity on a team front and on a family front. That these guys are really poised to help our team run in the right direction and keep us in the right direction.
Well, I'm excited for your guys' season this year. I'm excited to get to work again, and let's get back and start doing the work, the mental work, the culture work, the relationship stuff we need to do. But it's going to be an exciting season, and I invite everybody listening to watch the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's going to be a great year. Resilience is the willingness and ability to look adversity in the face, the pain, the difficulty, acknowledge it, and then focus on what you need to do. That's what adversity is. Average people are crushed by adversity. Good people survive it. The elite get better because of it. No one wants adversity, but everyone gets it. When adversity strikes, don't flinch. Focus on what you need to do. Go do the work.